Do you remember cousin Orson? Orson Lannister?
Of course. Wet nurse dropped him on his head and left him simple.
Simple? Used to sit all day in the garden, crushing beetles with a rock.
This is probably one of the strangest scenes we've ever seen in Game of Thrones. Tyrion Lannister sits in a cell hours before he might die and tells his brother a story about their cousin crushing beetles.
Smurf the beetles! Smurf them!
It was one of television's most anticipated episodes, the trial by combat that would determine Tyrion's fate. And the showrunners chose to spend 5 minutes of screen time to talk about a moron and his beetles. It wasn't even in the books, and people hated it, because for many, it was a pointless childhood memory that adds nothing to the plot. But what if I told you that behind this seemingly pointless story, there's actually one of the most devastating metaphors the show ever gave us? What if I told you that once you really understand why Tyrion is telling this story right now, this scene turns into something that will haunt you forever? Because here's the truth, this scene was never about Beetles. It wasn't even really about Orson. It was about a son, desperately trying to understand why his father wants him dead.
Why?
I mean, I know that's a bold claim, but I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean. And it all starts with understanding the context, because the context is everything here. As you might remember, this scene takes place right after Tyrion's legendary trial, where he's been accused of murdering King Joffrey. Tywin parades witness after witness, each one twisting Tyrion's words, painting him as a monster. And the whole time, Tyrion can see exactly what's happening. This isn't about justice. This isn't even really about Joffrey's death. This is his own father finally seizing the perfect opportunity to kill the son he's always despised. And now he sits in a cell with his brother. He should be terrified. He should be talking about the injustice of what's happening. But instead, his first instinct is to recall the story about Orson. At first, they both seem amused by it, laughing about that cousin who spent his days crushing beetles. But as Tyrion continues, something changes. The tone darkens. The storytelling stops being a shared memory and starts sounding like a confession.
And I became possessed with knowing what they were.
And this is our first cue that something deeper is happening here. Just listen to how this escalates.
When I wasn't watching him, I was thinking about him, and I still couldn't figure out why he was doing it. In my dreams, I found myself standing on a beach made of beetle husks, stretching as far as the eye could see. I woke up crying, weeping for their shattered little bodies.
Now stop there for a second and really think about that. Why would a child have nightmares about insects being killed? Why would he cry over beetles? The emotional response is completely disproportionate to the situation. It's far too intense, too emotional. You don't lose sleep over insects. You don't wake up weeping for beetles, unless the beetles were never just beetles.
It was horrible that all these beetles should be dying for no reason.
I mean, just think about what Tyrion is actually describing. Small, defenseless creatures being crushed without reason, without trial. Crushed by someone bigger, someone who has complete power over them. Does that sound familiar? Because that's Tyrion's entire life. From the moment he was born, he's been the beetle under his father's rock. Emotionally crushed, socially crushed, politically crushed. Every dismissal, every look of disgust from his father has been another crack in Tyrion's shell. And now the crushing is about to become literal. You see, that's exactly where the brilliance of this scene lies. After facing imminent death, adult Tyrion retreats to the same displacement. But even now, he can't quite bring himself to ask the real question. Why does my father want me dead? Instead, he asks why Orson crushed all those beetles. Because when reality is too painful to confront directly, the psyche finds safer proxies. So when young Tyrion couldn't consciously process the thought of his father wants him dead just for existing, his mind latched onto something else, something he could observe from a distance. But the question never changes.
Why was he smashing all those beetles? What did he get out of it?
Why should he die for no reason? He hadn't killed Joffrey. They both knew that. He'd served loyally, even bled in the mud for his family. But every time he tried to earn his father's respect, he was met with the same casual dismissal. A grunt, a push, and then the crushing continued.
I tried to stop Orson once. He just pushed me aside with a coup and kept on smashing.
As always, there was no justice in his sentence, just as there had been no reason for the beetles to die. So maybe when he says he was weeping for their shattered little bodies, he was actually weeping for himself, for the son who's watched his father's cruelty and could never understand why. And in this very cell, he actually asks that haunting question one more time.
So what do you think? Why did he do it? What was it all about?
Just take a closer look at Tyrion's face in that moment. That playfulness I mentioned earlier is completely gone. His eyes search Jaime's face with an intensity that has nothing to do with childhood curiosity about a long-dead cousin. He's not asking about Orson anymore, or rather he is, but Orson has become something larger. Orson has become every figure who's ever had power over the powerless and used it to crush without reason. Orson has become Tywin.
Yes.
At this point, you might be thinking, but wait, we actually know why Tywin hates Tyrion. The show gives us his reasons, and you're right. But from Tyrion's perspective, it's never been that simple. Because Tywin has spent his entire life playing a brilliant, poisonous mind game. He's made Tyrion believe he's not hated for what he is, but for what he does. His drinking, his whores, and his mockery. And that illusion allows Tyrion to keep trying. Because if the problem is behavior, then theoretically he can fix it. He can be more serious. He can prove his worth. There's hope in that framework. Painful, exhausting hope, but hope nonetheless. But you see, Tywin's hatred was never actually about those behaviors. And the saddest part is that deep down, Tyrion actually knows this. He's far too intelligent not to see the truth. But admitting it out loud means admitting that all his effort has been pointless, that his father will never love him, that he is fundamentally rejected simply for existing. And that's too devastating to accept. That's exactly why he keeps asking the same question over and over again. But he never gets a satisfying answer, not even from his brother.
I don't know.
3 words, that's all Jaime gives him. And in those 3 words, Tyrion faces 2 devastating possibilities. Maybe Jaime genuinely doesn't understand what Tyrion is asking. He thinks this really is just about Beetles and their cousin, which means Tyrion is completely alone. Or Jaime does understand. He realizes his brother is asking about their father and he simply has no answer to give. Either way, Tyrion remains exactly where he's always been, alone with his questions, about to be crushed with no understanding of why. And then we hear the bells ring. We are back to what really matters. The trial by combat is about to begin. Soon, Oberyn Martell will fight the Mountain. Soon, Tyrion might die. And that answer might remain forever out of reach. But here's what makes this scene even more fascinating when you know what's coming next. Because the same Jaime who can't give Tyrion an answer will soon be the one to set him free. And by doing so, he's not just saving his brother's life. He's giving him one final chance to confront the man who's been crushing him since the day he was born. And one last time, Tyrion will ask that question.
All my life, you've wanted me dead. You knew I didn't poison Joffrey, but you sentenced me all the same. Why?
Enough.
But as you see, Tywin gives no real answer once again. Instead, he gives one more grunt before continuing to crush. But this time, something is different. Because this time, Tyrion has the power. He holds a crossbow. And in that instant, that crossbow becomes his answer to decades of asking why in a world that never offered one. After a lifetime of being the helpless child who watched Orson, who watched his father, and even the Mountain crushing Oberyn like another Beetle, he finally has the power to make it stop. I mean, I know, this is such a grim take, but isn't that exactly what the show has always been saying us all along? That the world doesn't turn on honor, or justice, or even love. It turns on power alone. So maybe, just maybe, that coup sound has been there all along, humming underneath everything in Westeros. And maybe that's what Tyrion finally understands in that privy, where the question of why still hangs in the air, unanswered. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a comment, give a like, and click to subscribe. Your support will greatly help the mysterious algorithm notice me. And if you want to support me directly, you can join the channel by clicking the join button. See you next time.